I'm happy to invite Yakir Buskilla, who is a tech entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data in various engineering and leadership roles. In recent years, he was the general manager for Nielsen R&D Center in Israel, and in the last year, he's the co-founder and CEO of cocohub.ai, a platform for creating conversational virtual humans, which I'm sure we can all say are very important post-corona. I'm happy to invite him to talk about creating unique conversational experiences. Here.
Okay, I hope that you can hear me. Hey everyone. So my name is Yakir. I am currently the CEO and co-founder of CocoHub. And CocoHub is a platform for creating virtual humans. Basically, this platform enables anyone to create virtual humans. But before we jump into the technical details, I'll just briefly give you some details about me. So I'm in this field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, you name it, for the past 10 years. Most recently, I was managing the R&D center of Nielsen. Nielsen is a huge measurement and data company specialized in TV rating measurement. And in the last year and a half, what I'm doing is basically we understood that there is a huge potential in the field of conversational AI. And because of the recent changes due to the pandemic in how people are communicating with each other, we decided to come up with this concept of virtual humans, where a virtual human is basically a combination of very advanced conversation engine and very advanced animation technology. And I think that the best way to explain or describe a virtual human is to watch a very short demo.
Welcome to your project showcase. My name is Preston. So what's your first name, please?
Eden.
Just to make sure. Is your first name Eden?
Yes.
Now, what's your last name?
Gil.
I'm just verifying. Is your last name Gil?
Yes, correct.
Nice to meet you, Eden Gil. Now, what was the title you gave your project?
It was the life of the Yellowstone Park wolves.
Interesting. Can you elaborate? What was it about?
Yes, it was about the lives of the wolves in the park and how they are affected from the drastic climate change nowadays.
Biology is one of the most interesting topics I can think about. Why did you choose it?
Because I'm really fascinated by wolves, and I thought it would be nice to understand how the extreme weather in that specific park affects the animals.
Do you feel that your initial question was answered in a manner that satisfied you?
Yes and no, because I got the answers I was looking for, but it was very saddening to see and to understand how the animals are affected from the weather change.
That's great. Sounds like a successful project in my book. Now, what was your biggest challenge during the project?
My biggest challenge was the research because of the restrictions during a COVID year.
Wow. And what was the key to overcoming it?
But the conversation goes on. All right, so what we've seen here is basically a Zoom meeting. This was recorded from Zoom. It was a real Zoom meeting between two participants. I hope that you managed to identify the virtual human. It was on the right side. But Preston, the virtual human, is basically a virtual teacher that was created for the task of helping students practice their project presentation skills. Let's say that you're a student, you created a project, and you're going to present this project in front of a committee of lecturers, and you want a tool to be able to practice your project presentation skills. So this is exactly what Preston can help you with. Now, Preston is just one example of a virtual teacher or a virtual teaching assistant, and in general of a virtual human. But the idea is that you can create virtual human for any need. Here what you can see is how virtual humans are being used in the field of education. I must say that we see a lot of demand in the field of education. These virtual teachers are being used today by multiple schools, universities, colleges from Israel and abroad for the purpose of educating students about specific topics, running quizzes, exams, perform evaluation. And again, the idea is that these virtual teachers can do all of that while providing feedback in real time and really help the student to achieve their goals. And initially, I started speaking about the state of, about conversational AI and what was the opportunities that we identified there. Because again, when we started CocoHub, we understood that in the past few years, there were many new developments in the field of conversational AI. New language models, like huge language models, and new techniques for training them and use them. But the main problem is that for most people, this technology is inaccessible. Now, even in the presentation of the guy from Google, he spoke about Lambda, which is a very advanced and interesting technology, but this technology is not available for the wide audience. So it means that whenever you are speaking with the common chatbot that you can find popping from the bottom part of the screen in every internet site, you're not really exposed to this technology. And this is why, if you will ask any person here, like what is his perception of a chatbot and how he feels when he speaks with chatbots, most of the time people will say that chatbots are kind of dumb. Let's be honest. And this is, I think this is a problem because the technology is there. The main problem is the technology is not accessible. And even though there is plethora of platforms for creating chatbots and creating conversational agents, again, these platforms are not really aimed for a wider audience. You should be either a super engineer if you're using Microsoft Bot Framework or Rasa, or you at least need to be a conversation designer. These are people who are really expert in how to construct a conversation. And again, if you put all these limitations, it means that most people cannot use and really utilize this technology. Now, another problem that we identified is that most chatbots today are built for a very limited set of use cases, mostly for customer support, contact center, and marketing. And we really believe that, as you see, if you see in this Preston, you can really use and utilize this technology in new fields. And I think that finally, we wanted to achieve two key things. First of all, we wanted to enable people to create very advanced and sophisticated conversational agents without writing any code at all. But the other thing is that we understood, okay, the pandemic really changed the world. Everyone moved to remote work and everyone moved to remote learning. And chatbots are like maybe the only piece of technologies that really left behind. We really wanted to take the textual chatbots that you are all familiar with and bring them to the new world of video. Now, in order to do that, we had to solve a few problems. So first of all, the key problem that we had to solve is the latency issue. If you try to put a native participant inside a Zoom meeting, people do expect this participant to react relatively quickly. So it cannot take seconds, even not 1 second, until a bot generates an answer. Now, in our case, it's even more complex because we need that the end-to-end process will take less than 500 milliseconds. And when I'm talking about the end-to-end process, we need to take the input, the speech, which is a voice. We need to go through a speech-to-text component that converts the speech to text. We need to take the text, pass it through a conversation engine that runs the NLP, NLU part to generate the next output. Then we need to synthesize the voice of the avatar. And in parallel to that, we need to synthesize the entire facial expressions and the head movement of the avatar. And we need to do all of that in less than 500 milliseconds. Otherwise, it will not work. Like it will feel like a very creepy, artificial conversation. Like the end experience will be very bad. So this is the first problem that we had to solve, and this is why, by the way, we couldn't use any existing platform or conversational engine like Dialogflow, Microsoft Bot Framework, and similar platforms because they are too slow. And also, this is why we couldn't use the new massive language models like GPT-3 and similar because for them, like to generate even a single answer, it usually takes seconds. So this was the first challenge. The second challenge was around multi-turns. Most of the interactions that you have with chatbots today and smart assistants are usually a single turn. What it means is that you ask a question, you get an answer. You ask another question, you get another answer. We wanted to create something different. You've seen with Preston, the idea is that the conversation is very deep. Preston asks a question, he gets an answer. Then he asks a follow-up question based on the previous answer, and it goes on. So there is no limit to the number of turns that we are giving to the user. So this was a very important aspect of our solution. In addition to that, we wanted to allow components reusability. This is a very familiar concept to anyone who has some background in the field of software engineering. There is no reason to rewrite the same conversational flows over and over and over. If you wrote a conversation flow that knows how to get the user first name, last name, and email, why not reuse the exact same flow in all your virtual humans or bots? Another challenge was, of course, around the realistic full face and head animation. We had to create a model that basically predicts from the content the lips movement, but also, again, the face movement, all the facial expressions. And what is very challenging is that we also need to predict and generate the feelings that the virtual human is actually listening. So you do that by controlling other areas like of the face beside the lips. So for example, it can raise the eyebrows. It can change the hand movement to create this feeling that he is listening to whatever you say. So this was a very complex task, and we had to create a spatial model that predicts the movement from the incoming voice stream. And the last let's say, a challenge here was that we wanted to integrate with an existing video platform. We are not the first platform that offers virtual humans or digital humans. There are several platforms that do that, but the problem with all of these platforms is that, first of all, they give you only the digital human side. You need to bring your own conversation engine, and the experience is not great. But another problem is that they doesn't support existing platforms. So you cannot have FaceTime or Zoom meeting or Google Meet meeting with this virtual human. You need to go into a dedicated platform and have this conversation. And this is a deal breaker. Like, I don't believe that I can transform all the schools in the United States to use my own video platform just because of this virtual human feature. We really wanted to create a piece of technology that can be embedded inside existing platforms. Okay, so unfortunately, due to the limits of time, I cannot go over all the technical challenges and drill into how we solve all these problems, and I have only 5 minutes left. So I will try to focus on a single aspect of how we are encouraging our users to create a deep conversation and how we help them create these feelings that the virtual human is really intelligent. So we do that by creating layers that consist of a conversation that consists of 3 layers. And the idea is that the conversation is happening in all these 3 layers, and it fallbacks every time that it cannot find, that the virtual human cannot find an answer in a certain layer, it falls back to the second layer and then to the third layer. So let's start with the first layer. This is the active layer of the bot. Here we basically give our users a platform for generating pre-scripted content. If we are talking about Preston, here the user can define what are the questions that Preston will ask and how it will react to certain inputs. If you have any experience with conversational platforms, you probably can understand this flow. Basically, these are components. Say component is what the bot will say. Navigation are the intents, how to parse and understand what the user says. And there are also components that perform actual tasks like sending an email. And you can also see an example of a custom component like the namer and get email. These are custom components that basically get the username and get the email address of a user. So this is the first part, again, the active part. But what happens when a user go off script? And we found that users really like to do that. They really like to test the boundaries and check whether the bot is really intelligent. And it especially, like you see that especially in a Zoom setup, because they see a face, they see something that is similar to a human, they want to experiment with that. So Preston is asking you all these questions, but now a user or a student can ask, okay, but when is the test? Or when the class is running? Or where is the cafeteria? These are all possible questions. So this is why we created the second layer, which is based on a machine learning models that knows how to match questions to answer. Basically, what we are asking our users to do is just to fill in the answer. This is an example from a virtual human that is a virtual representative for an e-commerce store. So the user just specified, for example, what is the location of the store and what happens if there is a damaged product. And again, in real time, whenever we don't find an answer in the active layer, the virtual human automatically drops to this layer and trying to match the correct answer. But what we also find out and what usually happens is that people love to ask personal questions. And they love to go off script, but they also like to ask, like, what is the level of intelligence of this bot? And this is why we created the third layer, which is based on a language model. Again, here we used some variation of GPT-2 because of the latency requirements. And the idea here is that this layer can answer whenever the user wants to have like a chit chat or a small talk, whenever he asks the virtual human to tell him a joke. So here the user just define what is the persona of this virtual human. For example, I'm a sporty person who loves motorsports and fitness. And then whenever the virtual human will get a question that is not covered by the first layer and is not covered by the second layer, the base persona will kick in and will start managing the conversation based on the persona definition. Okay, and basically, this is CocoHub. So as I said earlier, we launched in Q4 2020. The main idea is to enable the creation of virtual humans easily with a no-code process. You can see the process here in the background. We give the user full control over, of course, the persona and also the content and the look of the avatar and all these things. And of course, that since we want to encourage people to use conversational AI technology in new fields, we also offer a set of templates and pre-made components that are relevant to the field of education, recruitment, and this field. So they don't just create customer support virtual humans. And that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. I will take it. Yeah. Yeah, so there are a few points here. So first of all, the way we structured our infrastructure, we know how to join these meetings as native participants, which means that we stream from our server the video and audio in real time, but from the same place. So if there is a latency, for example, in Zoom servers, we can ensure that once the latency issue will get fixed, like the user will get the audio and video at the same time. Now, in general, in Zoom meetings, especially in group calls, we do experience issues with noisy environment, or like cutoffs and things like that. What helps us is that we don't look for specific words. We really can benefit from long sentences and understanding the concept. So usually this helps us to figure out, again, how to predict the next output, even if something is missing. Yes, there is a problem. If the user said only a single word and we miss this word, there might be a problem.
I have a question. Depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues are linked to a regression in human interaction. Can you address that? Do you think you are contributing to that problem?
That's interesting because we see many use cases and people come with great ideas to how we can use this technology. So there are a few researchers that now try to use this technology to help lonely people with a companionship bot, basically. We have some works on that. So just the idea that you can speak with someone and it looks more or less like a human. So the assumption is that it can help them, but I don't think that we really proved that yet. So we're still testing this. We do believe that it can be useful, but again, we still need to prove that. תודה רבה.